What's happening, everyone? Hope you're well. Hope you've had a good weekend. Hope you're enjoying the last of the weekend. Back to work tomorrow. Now, I know it's been a bit of a grim weekend, hasn't it, weather-wise? I mean, I'd like to say it's expected. I mean, it's expected because we're in the UK, but it's also not expected because it's the end of April, I expect a little bit of sunshine and a little bit of warm weather, but it is what it is. We're not here to listen to me talk about the weather. You're here to see what I've been up to and what I'm getting myself into. Now, this particular video, as you saw by the thumbnail, by the caption, the customer learned a very expensive lesson. Why was that? So I didn't do this boiler install. I've been drafted in to help out my colleague who done the install because there was a major cock up. And that was that the customer wanted to do things as cheap as possible, to the point where they wanted to supply the boiler as well. Now, us as heating engineers, we know which boilers we would be recommending depending on what we're used to fitting and what boilers we work on and things like that. Customers, if you don't know what you're dealing with, then leave it to the professionals. In this case, obviously they wanted to do things as cheap as possible, so they wanted to get all the materials and everything themselves as well, including the boiler. Which boiler did they get? Ariston. Now, we all know what goes through our mind when we see an Ariston boiler, so it's exactly what you think. This boiler, for whatever reason, it's a system boiler. It cannot be wired up to a Y-plan system, which is what was there existing, because it doesn't have high voltage switch live terminals in the boiler. It's only got low voltage switching terminals. Now, my colleague who fitted the boiler, he wasn't to know this. Let's be honest. Whenever we fit a boiler, how often do we look at the MIs before fitting the boiler? Even if it's a brand new boiler, even if it's a boiler that we've not fitted before, I'll be honest, I don't, because you think, okay, look, I'll pipe it up and then I will look at the MIs when it comes to the commissioning part of it in case there's any special sequence or anything like that. You wouldn't necessarily think that I'd need to check the MIs to see if this boiler accepts high voltage switch lives or not. Like you'd expect it to have the option for both, or at least mains voltage. So he got into this situation where he's fitted the boiler, he's gone to commission it, or he's gone to basically do the wiring side of things, and he's called me. He's sending me videos and pictures where I've done a video call with him, and he's flicked through the MIs, and I've picked up on something in bold writing, and it says, this boiler cannot be installed on a Y-plan system. They've got a Y-plan system there. So he's not confident in converting from Y-plan to S-plan and redoing the wiring and stuff like that. So he drafted me in. I went back, sorted everything out. I've explained it all in the video, but I basically converted the system from a Y-plan to an S-plan, had to rewire it to an S-plan, and also I had to set it up so that we had low voltage switching going to the boiler rather than mains voltage. I'll explain it in the video. I don't want to ramble on too much because it's a fairly long video as it is. So I hope you find it useful. I hope you find it interesting. If you do and you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button. I know content is a little bit slow at the moment in terms of the stats, so it's expected, but I would really like to see you guys hitting those subscribe and like buttons. I want to see my stats climbing again. I know I haven't gotten around to doing the 10K giveaway stuff yet. Things have just gotten really busy all of a sudden. I need to get on top of it. I've got some of the prizes. I need to speak to some of the manufacturers to find out, to confirm exactly what the other prizes that they're going to be sending out, because some are coming direct from the manufacturers. Some I've got that I'm going to be sending out. So I just need to get a roundup of exactly what's going to be sent out, and then I can get this giveaway going. But yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, please, please, please. It doesn't cost you anything, but it makes a world of a difference to me. Enjoy the video, and I'll catch you all on Wednesday. Thanks a lot. Welcome to today's job, which is quite an interesting one. Basically got to convert a system from a Y plan to an S plan and rewire it to work on low voltage switching rather than mains voltage switching. I'll explain a bit more once I'm up there, but
it's taken me about an hour to unload my van because where I'm parked, you know what, let me grab my drink. I've racked up like 3,000 steps already. Oh man, let's get this locked up. So I'm parked here. The property I'm working in is up there, just behind that wall there. But to get in, got to go through there. There's no lift. Walk up all the way along there, up through there, and then the job is up on the first floor as well. So you can imagine I'm on my own because it's not a massive job. So it's just long, just unloading. Look, let's do the walk. Alright, here we are. So this is the job I'm here to do. So I've got a wide plan system here, a 3-port. I need to remove that and put 2 ports on and repipe it and rewire it as an S-plan system. Now the reason I'm having to do that, give me a minute, catch my breath. So the reason I need to do this is because I'm been drafted in by a colleague of mine who fitted an Ariston system boiler here. Now that system boiler cannot be fitted to a Y-plan system for reasons unbeknown to me. Well, the reason is because it doesn't have mains voltage switching terminals inside the boiler. It's only got low voltage switching. So obviously on a Y-plan you can't get low voltage, but you can do it on an S-plan because I'll explain it as I'm doing it, but all you got to do is normally you'd have the grey on your 2 ports wired into permanent live, but all you need to do in this one is you keep the grey and the orange in 2 separate terminals, and then you have another 2 wires going from there straight to the switch live terminals on the boiler. So that's what I'm going to do, but I haven't quite planned out exactly what I'm going to do, but obviously we've got my primary flow coming up from there. So from there I'm thinking maybe if I can get the 2 ports here, I might actually bring it a little bit further up. So in the future, for any maintenance and anything like that, we've got a bit more access. Need to bring it up here or wherever. Then the heating 2 port just needs to split and then go down to here. And then the hot water 2 port just needs to go into here. Then I need to try and fit in a bypass, but they've got this little weird bend here. I might be able to cut in a bypass there, I'm not sure. If not, then might have to cut one in by the boiler, or if the boiler's got a built-in bypass, I'm not sure. I do like to try and fit an external bypass if I can, but I'll see how much space I've got because the return on there is looking quite tight. So we'll see what we can do. But first I'm just going to drain the pressure out the system. The boiler's downstairs, so I'm just going to drain the pressure out from there. So it should get rid of any water in the pipework here. So then I can then start just cutting away and then doing what I need to do. Got everything up here that I need for the job, I hope. Probably will have to make another couple of trips down to, I've probably forgotten something, I'm sure. But yeah, this the joys of working on your own. Let's get cracking. So ripped out what I need to rip out so far, and I managed to get a T in there, but couldn't get my cutters around it. I had to cut the clip off with the multi-tool, cut the screw off, so that's gone off, and I had to cut the pipe with the multi-tool as well. So I cut it, filed it down, managed to get a T into there. I've not pressed it yet because I don't know exactly what angle I need to do it at, but at least I know I can get my jaws around the top and bottom there to get that press. I reckon I'll probably have to come in at an angle because I need to clear this bit of batten, or I'll probably use this batten as clips potentially, because obviously when I put these on valves, normally I would put spacers on the clips when I'm doing the on valve, so you've got enough space behind it to get to the nuts or get behind the on valve or anything like that. So I'll probably clip on there. This is going to get in the way a bit, but yeah, then I might just do both on valves here then, so that I don't have to come up here. I was thinking of putting them here, but I might just do it all here, see how much space I got. But yeah, so at least I've got that T cut in for the bypass, so I can fit the bypass here now, even though it's going to be very tight. So now I've just got to figure out, bring my flow up, zone valve, bypass, put an AAV up here as well, so at least that will get rid of any air in the system. Right, let's start piping. So I've had a bit of a change of plan how I'm going to fit the zone valves. I was going to try and do like a manifold setup, so I have the flow coming up there and then split into zone valve, but I think it's going to be a bit tight to put both zone valves there because there's not a lot of space. So I think the easiest way, especially for future maintenance, obviously I'm going to cut this back a little bit further, but if I can put the zone valve directly on the hot water flow there, that zone valve that's going straight into the heating flow, then I've got more room here to just jig around with the pipe work, and I can get the bypass in and everything as well. So yeah, I think that's going to be the most sensible option, because I'm looking at it from a point of future maintenance as well, and obviously getting access to the zone valves, and obviously just ease of installation as well. So I think over here it's going to be way too tight, so I think this is how I'm going to do it, and then I can also get the bypass in there as well. So now I've just got to figure out from my flow at the back, bring it up, best way to split off the T's and everything, get these all connected, then deal with this wiring center afterwards as well. Right, so finished piping up. So yeah, this is how I end up doing it, which I think actually works out, because now you've got access to that 2-port, you've got access to that bypass, you've got access to that 2-port, everything is accessible, access to that AAV if that ever needs changing. So I've done it in a way where everything is accessible and it's workable. So now I'm just going to fill up the system. Everything's been pressed, everything's been nipped up and everything. So I'm going to go downstairs, fill up the system, put some pressure into it, leave it on test whilst I start working on the wiring side of things. Now on the wiring side, like I said, I need to rewire it obviously first to S-plan. I'm going to be using a new Wago wiring center as well. I'm not going to use this. I might use it, I'll see what it's like when I open it up, but more than likely I'm probably going to use the Wago wiring center. I need to get a 2-core cable down to the boiler in order for me to be able to wire it up with the low voltage switching. Now obviously wiring center is here, boiler is below that cupboard, I would say. The kitchen's down there. Now I'm going to see what kind of cable, there is a fuse spur downstairs, so I'm going to see what kind of cable is coming from there, if I can piggyback off of something on there and rewire it in here and use it as my switching cables, or if I'm going to have to somehow run a cable from here to the downstairs, which is going to look a bit ugly. But yeah, I can't do much else, so I'm going to try and do the best that I can with what I've got, and then we'll just have to go from there. The other thing I can't find is the programmer. There is obviously this old timer up here, but that's, look, that's all been cut, so I'm pretty sure that's not in use, and I don't think that's, I think that's just for the immersion area. So there's a stat here, there's this here, but I can't see where there's a programmer. I haven't seen it downstairs, so I'm not sure how it's been wired up, if I need to then fit a programmer or not as well. We'll see. Let me go and fill up the system and then we'll go from there and have a look. Okay, update on how I'm going to do the wiring. Firstly, I pulled up this bit of trunking and I've found the programmer is here. Okay, so we have a programmer, which is good. If not, I had one in the van anyway. Now, how I'm going to do the wiring, just bear with me, I'm going to explain this. You might have to rewind this a few times for it to make sense, or you might get it in one go. But I'm just trying to figure out, because look, there's no way for me to get a cable from here to downstairs. But I think I've found a way to use the power. All right, let me explain it. So this twin and earth cable, or whatever it is, 4-core cable, that's coming from the main fuse spur downstairs. All right, so that's our live, neutral and earth connections, and then obviously everything else is coming from the zone valve, cylinder stat, wireless receiver, etc. That's fine. What I'm going to do, because I need power to the wiring center, I'm going to take power from here. So this is obviously a cable feeding the pump, a spur switch. I'm going to kill the power, come off of that, probably put another fuse spur here as an isolation point for the wiring center here. And then this cable here, I'm going to terminate, or sorry, I'm going to remove the cables out of the fuse spur downstairs where it's currently bringing the power up. And I'm going to use 2 of the cables that are coming from there as my low voltage switching cables. So one of them is already there, which is the black coming out of here. I believe there was a black or yellow. Yeah, so that yellow there. So they've used different cables as it's gone through. So that yellow is one of the switch life cables, because it's obviously coming off of the orange there. So I'll probably take that cable and the red there and wire them into the greys and the oranges of the 2 ports, so that it will then work as low voltage switching. And then downstairs, let me show you downstairs. So you can see there's no way, the boiler's like down there somewhere. So let's move this out of the way. So down here, this is one of the switch live cables. This is basically the yellow that you saw coming from upstairs. This is one of the lives. Obviously we've got the grey, which is the neutral, and the earth. So I'm going to disconnect, because they're currently in the load section of this fuse spur. So that's sending power upstairs, and there's also another brown there which is sending power to the boiler. Bear with me, stay with me, stay with me. I'm going to disconnect the live earth and neutral from here, which is feeding the wiring center upstairs, and I'm going to use obviously the yellow, which is now the black down here, and the red, which is upstairs, which is going to be our brown down here, as our 2 low voltage switching cables. I'm going to run a new 5-core cable from here to the boiler, so the boiler will still get its live earth and neutral supply from here, but there will also be another 2 cores which I can use as my low voltage switching, which will come from upstairs down to here, and then from here into the boiler. I hope that makes sense. So basically what I'm doing is, in a nutshell, I'm getting rid of the power to the wiring center from this fuse spur, and I'm taking another source of power from upstairs, put another fuse spur, that will be the power source for that wiring center, and the boiler will have its own separate power source, which is just that. So I hope that makes sense. I'm gonna make a crack. What's the time? But yeah, probably stop for a bit of lunch or take a few bits downstairs, because I haven't got any more pipe work now, and then get my wiring stuff all ready, because I'm gonna have to bring Wagos and stuff upstairs. I might actually use that wiring center. I'll see. I haven't decided yet exactly what I'm going to do, but we'll see. And yeah, let's see how it turns out. Okay, I'm going to try and explain this as best as I can. Well, I'm going to explain it how I've done it, but it depends on how into wiring you are, if it makes sense or not. But I'll explain it as best as I can, how it makes sense to me, and how I would be explaining it to anyone else doing this. So let's start with, programmer on the other side converted that from Y plan to S plan. This is the cable coming back into the wiring center here. So what I've done is, just make sure the mic's not touching my neck, otherwise all you're going to hear is, do you know what, let me put the mic there in front of me. So now you should be able to hear everything clearly. So live, neutral, earth terminals are now at the top there. The number 4 terminal is heating on. So that is then linked to A on the wireless receiver, and then B from there comes back into terminal 5, which is then linked to the brown and the heating's on valve, which will power it, give it power to motor open. Now that's the only part of the zone valve which is getting 240 volts to it. The greys, I have not linked them to live because I need this to be volt free or low voltage switching. So once that gets a demand from B, that will send 240 volts into terminal 5, which will in turn send 240 volts onto the brown for the heating zone valve. That will motor over. When it does motor over, all it will do is going to make a connection between the grey and the orange there. So all it's doing is grey and oranges are like that. They'll be like that. That's it. No power on it or anything like that. Volt free. It just make, break, make, break. That's all it's doing. And that is what's going to give the boiler downstairs a low voltage or volt free signal for it to come on for heating or hot water, whatever demand is there. So the same goes for the cylinder stat. So the cylinder stat is coming in from here, and that's wired into number 6. So number 6 is hot water on. That's wired into the common to the cylinder stat. And then when the cylinder stat comes on, that will send power back down to number 7. Yep, that's the grey wire there, number 7, which then sends power to the brown for the hot water zone valve, which will then motor open, and then it will make the connection again between the grey and the oranges and send a volt-free signal back down to the boiler to tell it that we've got a demand and we need to fire up. Now finally, with the main power for this wiring center, like I said, I'm going to piggyback off of the feed that's going to the pump. So I've taken my live earth and neutral 3-core cable into there, and then this other bit is basically this bit here. So that's what's I'm gonna in a moment turn the power off, cut that cable, piggyback off of that, and that is then going to be our fuse spur for this wiring center. Then downstairs there's another fuse spur for the boiler. I hope that makes sense. Any questions, drop a comment below. If there's anything you would have done differently, drop a comment below. I'm happy to take constructive criticism on how I've done this. If there's a different way of doing it, or if there's a better way of doing it, by all means, I'm all ears. This is just how I process it and how I do it, and I hope you guys find that useful. So now I'm going to basically tidy all this up, close everything up, and get this all connected up. And then I still need to run a 5-core cable from the downstairs switch spur into the boiler, which is going to give it its live, neutral, earth. That's the 3 cores, and the other 2 cores are going to be our volt-free switching cables, which are going to be this red and blue, which downstairs are going to be our brown and grey cable, if I remember correctly. But we'll have a look at that when we get down. So let me just close this up, sort out all this power here, and then we can go downstairs and have a look. Okay, so sorted out the power. So now we've got power coming into there, fuse spur is back on, well, the consumer unit's back on. So what I'm going to do now, the boiler's still off downstairs, but I just want to test that the zone valves and the program and everything's working fine. So at the moment, obviously back here, no lights in the programmer, which is what we want because the spur to the wiring center is off. So now if I turn that on, I should get power to there, to cylinder stat. I should be getting power here as well. Perfect. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, I'm not sure if the wireless stat downstairs is actually calling at the moment. That's fine. What we'll do, let's do heating. So if we put on continuous. All right. Obviously that's off at the moment, but if I press that, that should now, there you go, look, that starts motoring over. Wait for the click. Right, that's clicked, but obviously it's not going to do anything at the moment because I've disconnected the wires downstairs. But we know that the programmer is wired correctly to the thermostat receiver. So I'm out of breath because I've been running up and down. Now let's kill that and watch that turn off. Happy days. Now I don't know if the cylinder is already warm enough or not, but let's now put the hot water side on. That's clicked on. Let's see. Yeah, look, that's opening now. So that's doing what it's supposed to do. Wait for that click. Click. Happy days. AAV's hissing away because obviously that's open, so we'll have a little bit of air in there. Now if I turn this down, there we go. The zone valve shuts. So wiring is spot on. I'm going to kill the power from here and I'm going to sort out the wiring downstairs and then we're pretty much done. Right, wiring is all done downstairs as well. So let's power everything on and do some tests. So we've got power there. Let's make sure. Do you know what? Let me just set the time and date. I'll do that in a minute actually. That's not calling at the moment, which is fine, which is what we want. And now let's check the boiler. Right, so let's now I was thinking what's going on there, but it's just a neon that's gone off on there. Alright, I've never worked on Ariston. Well, I have, well, very rarely. So I'm meant to just press that, or is it doing something? I'm not sure. Off, okay. So that's on now. So right now it hasn't got any demand, which is correct. Now I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to, well, let's just put the heating demand on. Okay. Heating demand. Continuous on there. Alright, let's pop that one. That's starting to motor over. Let's go downstairs and see if that gets the boiler to fire up. The moment of truth. Ooh, it's doing something. It sounds like it fired up. We have flame. What's the pressure that's saying? So the water pressure here isn't great, so it's struggling to get up to even 1 bar. But that's fired up. Now let's go upstairs and check. Now we've got heat coming through the heating zone. Well, let's put some lights on. That's better. What am I working in the dark for? There's a light switch for this from. That's a bit better. Okay. So yeah, so that's on. Yeah, I can already feel the heat coming through there and going down the heating zone valve. Fantastic and good. We've got nothing coming through there. Nothing through the bypass at the moment, which is good. So now let's turn that off. That shuts. Now let's put the it doesn't really matter, does it, which way I do it. Let's put that to there, 65 roughly. Let's put it on here as well. Continuous. Yep, that's opening. Feel the heat going through there. Let's just make sure the boiler recognises the demand for that as well. Okay, so it's gone off for heating, but it's now coming on. Hot water. Done. That's the pressure setting because the AAV is hissing away, so I just want to make sure there's no air. Alright, it's working. Job done. So, change the system from a Y plan to an S plan, rewired it to work on low voltage switching rather than mains voltage switching, and everything works. I'm happy. 5 to 4, not bad considering I didn't actually get started until probably 11 o'clock by the time I got everything up here. So now it's probably going to take me like another hour to tidy up, pack up and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and just let the system run and then we're done.